Hello everyone, my name is Hannah if you're new here, and welcome back to my channel. I have a book to discuss today, and we're going to be talking about Under Nightfall by Rin Chapeko, which is a vampire adult fantasy romance start to a series. And I enjoyed my time reading this book. I really did. I flew through it. I was loving every second. I'm really excited about this kind of resurgence of some vampire stories and in a more adult context. I've been hesitant reading vampire stories though. There are some issues that I see with vampire media, and that is the nature of the discussion today, talking about consent and vampire stories in general, and this book in particular, and what I think worked and didn't work. This is about our main character Remy, who is a vampire hunter, and he is essentially under the thumb of his father, and he gets kind of wrapped up in a scheme to help the vampire queen, essentially, and her fiance. And of course, they get entangled in a polyamorous trio. Let me start off by saying this is about kind of a vampire plague that's happening, that there's some sort of mystery happening where the vampires are trying to discover the origins of this plague with the help of Remy as a, representative of the human civilization and the human nation that he's from. I want to be very careful talking about this one. So there may be some spoilery elements to this video, but I'll try to be vague until I talk about a very specific scene that happens. Vampires in modern media, I think, do a really much better job than vampires of the past talking about consent. And I think this book has a very interesting and very good handle on consent. Remy is treated by the human elite kind of as a playboy and a toy, and they use him for sexual encounters, and he uses these women for information for his father. Essentially, his father forces him into these romantic sexual encounters to get information out of these women, whether they are married or not. So Remy has a lot of trauma surrounding sexual relationships. Something I think this book did really well was really diving into that, and when he does start to have a relationship or feelings for these vampires, the two vampires, Xiaodan and Malik, really tap into that and are very hesitant to start a relationship with him. They feel this intense attraction to him and he to them, but they don't want to use him just for sex. They really do feel not only a physical attraction but an emotional attraction to him as well, and they tiptoe this line of treating him very delicately and really wanting him to consent to the situation, and because of his past trauma. And I think this book handles that extremely well, except for one scene. Now, this is the spoilery part. If you don't want to hear anything about this book, just know that this book does have an issue with sexual coercion scene. Let me be clear, I do love this trio. I think the dynamic between these three characters is a lot of fun. I was really shipping them. But I think the shipping of these three characters and their dynamic is supposed to excuse the actions in one particular scene. The scene happens when Remy is in a hot spring and he's naked. He's been soaking in there for a while, and Xiaodan finds him, and she essentially takes off all of her clothes, and it's getting very hot and heavy, and she kind of forces him into an ultimatum. She puts an ultimatum on him, basically saying, if you want me, you have to accept my partner as well. And she says this while Remy is inside of her, okay? And he is person who has never considered, one, polyamorous relationships, and two, his own queerness. And this is where my issue comes in. It seems that in this scene, Zhao Dan is not only forcing him to accept this romance dynamic that he's never considered before, but it's also forcing him to accept queerness for himself that he has never expressed or experienced or even thought himself to be queer. He does have feelings and moments where he is attracted to Malik, but he doesn't really, he shies away from that. He and Malik, personality-wise, butt heads a lot, and he doesn't consider himself as a potential romantic partner really until Zhao Dan forces him into this ultimatum. And he ultimately agrees, and they end up in this trio, and it's very sexually fulfilling as well as emotionally fulfilling for all three of them. There is an element of blood sucking because he is a human and they are vampires, and he does give consent for this pretty much immediately, so I don't have an issue with the blood, the vampirism essentially of this dynamic. It is truly forcing Remy into this relationship, I think, too soon. These characters do such a good job initially of respecting Remy and giving him space, giving him time to think and really reflect on what he truly wants out of a romantic relationship and kind of process his trauma until this scene. And then we're just supposed to kind of excuse this sexual coercion scene because we ship the three characters and because they are so good together, and that, you know, towards the end of the book there's lots of sexual and emotional fulfillment for all three of these characters. We're just supposed to kind of gloss over this scene, and that's where I kind of have pause, and it just kind of pulled me out of the story and made me really think critically about this work. I hesitate to recommend this book to my polyamorous friends. Polyamory is a complicated dynamic, and ethical non-monogamy is really hard, and the dynamics between all of the parties involved need to be communicated so well, and every step of the process needs to be negotiated. And I feel like this particular book missed the mark for that with this scene. Zhao Dan and Malik, they're going to get married, and they've been monogamous this whole time, but they want to make an exception for Remy. And I also kind of have an issue with that as well, knowing my polyamorous friends and knowing how weird that is, because that can become very toxic very quickly, especially since there's a power dynamic here with two vampires and a human. They are essentially political elite, you know, rulers in their own right of the vampire world, and Remy is kind of the son of a lord, but he does not have nearly as much political sway and power as and physicality of these two vampires. So there's just some weird dynamics happening here, and so I hesitate to recommend this one. I really liked it, and it's frustrating to me to have to put so much nuance and, you know, hedge my bets and hedge what I'm saying, but I think it would kind of upset my polyamorous friends if I were to recommend this one without that kind of nuance going into the book. I think polyamory should be represented in romance and fantasy and media more, but with the nuance and care that I think it deserves. I'm not the authority here. I just think this scene really rubbed me the wrong way, and I would love to have a conversation in the comments down below about the implications of this scene and how it works in this dynamic. I can't give it more than a 3 or a 3.5 out of 5 stars because of that. I think it just missed the mark a little bit for me personally, but I would love to know what y'all think. I think it is a good time if you can either see past that scene or really think about that scene critically in your reading. I appreciate you all clicking on this video and watching till the end. What do you think? Leave all your thoughts, opinions, questions in the comments down below, and I will see you in another video of mine very soon. Bye.